What if everything we know about history is wrong? What if a global empire existed advanced, peaceful, and technologically powerful only a few centuries ago, yet today it is completely erased? Across the world, we see the same strange signs. Buildings buried halfway up their first floors, giant doors built for people far larger than us, impossible architecture that defies modern engineering, star-shaped cities so perfectly designed they can only be seen from space, and structures that look more like massive, ancient machines than mere buildings. Tonight, we step into the mystery of Tartaria civilization so advanced that someone, somewhere, needed it to disappear. We'll ask the forbidden questions. Where did Tartaria go, and why was the world so desperate to hide it? The truth we uncover may change everything you thought you knew about our past. So, how does an empire the size of a continent simply vanish in a single generation? The story begins with maps. The first maps that mention a place called Tartary or Tartaria start appearing between the 1500s and 1700s. These aren't just crude drawings. They are detailed charts created by the world's leading cartographers, and they all show the same thing. A massive kingdom, a sprawling empire, stretching across what we now call Siberia, Mongolia, Central Asia, and even parts of Europe. Some maps even showed Tartarian territory reaching into North America. Mainstream historians today will tell you this was all just a fiction, a placeholder for lands that Europeans hadn't explored yet. They say Tartary was just a vague term for the unknown East. But if it was just a made-up name for a blank space on the map, why do dozens of different map makers, from different countries and different centuries, all draw the same giant empire with consistent borders? They weren't just guessing. They were recording something they believed was real. Think about it. These were the most respected cartographers of their time: Gerardus, Mercator, Abraham, Ortelius. These weren't fantasists, they were scientists, meticulously documenting the known world. They labeled cities, rivers, and political boundaries within this Tartarian empire. Was it all just a shared delusion? Or were they mapping a reality that has since been scrubbed from our collective memory? The mystery deepens when you look at when Tartaria disappears. It's a constant presence on world maps for hundreds of years. And then, suddenly, after around 1850, it's gone. How does an empire that supposedly dominated Asia for centuries just vanish from all maps within a few short decades? It doesn't make sense. Empires don't just disappear overnight without a trace. They fall. They are conquered. They leave behind ruins and records. But Tartaria, it seems to have been deliberately erased. The question isn't just asterisk, if asterisk it existed, but asterisk why, asterisk someone went to such great lengths to make us forget. This brings us to the most compelling and controversial part of the theory. We call it neoclassical, Beaux-Arts, or Greco-Roman revival. But what if it's something else entirely? From the Capitol buildings in the United States, to the grand opera houses of Europe, from old post offices in South America to forgotten banks in Australia, we see the same features. Towering columns, ornate domes, and an almost obsessive attention to classical symmetry and proportion. Historians tell us this was just a popular architectural trend. But how did people in the 1800s, with horse-drawn carts and basic tools, construct these colossal stone masterpieces all at the same time, all over the world? Many of these structures would be a challenge to build even today, with our advanced cranes and power tools. Yet we're told our ancestors, with far more primitive technology, built thousands of them. And it's not just the scale that's baffling, it's the small, strange details. Look closely at old photographs of these buildings. You'll often see what look like antennas, spires, and metallic orbs on the rooftops. We're told these are just decorative elements, like lightning rods or flagpole mounts. But the Tartarian theory proposes something far more radical. What if these weren't decorations? What if they were part of a technology we no longer understand? What if these buildings were not just beautiful structures, but functional machines designed to draw energy directly from the atmosphere, from the ether? This idea of atmospheric energy sounds like science fiction, but it was a very real concept being explored by scientists like Nikola Tesla in the late 19th century. Tesla dreamed of a world with free, wireless energy for all. What if the Tartarians had already perfected it? What if their grand cities were powered by clean, limitless energy, and these ornate buildings were their power plants? This would explain the incredible technological leap they supposedly had. It would also provide a powerful motive for their destruction. Imagine a world with free energy. It would completely upend the economic and power structures that we know today. An elite group couldn't control resources and populations if energy was free for everyone to access. If you wanted to control the world, the first thing you'd have to do is destroy this technology and erase all knowledge of its existence. Then there are the mud floods. This is a cornerstone of the Tartarian theory and one of the most visual pieces of evidence. All over the world, we find old buildings that appear to be sinking into the ground. You can see it in old cities everywhere. A grand entrance with a beautiful arched doorway, but the ground level is halfway up the door. Windows that should be on the first floor are at sidewalk level, looking out onto dirt. Basements had finished windows and brickwork, suggesting they were once ground-level floors. The official explanation is usually subsidence, or that the street level was raised over time. But the mud flood theory suggests something far more catastrophic. It proposes that a massive global cataclysm occurred sometime in the 19th century, a liquefaction event, or a deluge of mud that buried cities worldwide, in some cases by dozens of feet. This event would have wiped out the majority of the Tartarian population and destroyed their infrastructure. The survivors, dazed and disconnected, were easy to control. The new powers that rose from the mud powers that rule our world today simply took over the old Tartarian cities. They dug out the tops of the buildings, repurposed them, and wrote a new history. They called themselves the builders, the pioneers, the founders, and they told us that the buried levels were just basements. Think about the orphan trains of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Suddenly, hundreds of thousands of orphan children appeared in major cities. Where did they all come from? The official story talks about poverty and disease. But what if they were the children of the civilization that was just wiped out by the mud flood? They were collected, put on trains, and shipped out to be raised by new families, with no memory of their parents or their past. It was a way to repopulate the world and ensure that the next generation grew up with the new, fabricated history. In cities like Chicago, St. Louis, and San Francisco, massive, breathtakingly beautiful cities were built seemingly overnight for these fairs. We're told these enormous, magnificent structures were all temporary, made of plaster and wood, and torn down right after the fair ended. Does that make any sense? To build a city of architectural wonders, grander than anything in Rome, just for a 6-month exhibition, and then destroy it. They showed us the magic of the old world, called it their own, and then tore it down so no one could question the story. So we have missing maps, impossible architecture, evidence of a mud flood, and a suspicious pattern of covering it all up. Is it all just a collection of coincidences? Or are we looking at the faint outlines of a hidden history? A history of a global, advanced civilization that was deliberately erased from our memory. A civilization that had mastered free energy, built cities of unparalleled beauty, and lived in a world far different from our own. The questions are endless. Who were the Tartarians? What did they look like? We see depictions of giants in old artwork, and find skeletons of people much larger than us. Were they the builders of those giant doors? And who could have orchestrated such a massive, global cover-up? To erase an entire empire from history would require a level of coordination and power that is almost unimaginable. But if the prize was control of the entire planet and its future, the motive would be strong enough. This is just the beginning of the rabbit hole. As we dig deeper, the evidence only gets stranger and more compelling. We are peeling back the layers of a story that someone tried very hard to bury. What we've been taught in school might not be the full story. It might just be the story that the victors wanted us to hear. The real history of our world could be far grander, more mysterious, and more advanced than we have ever been led to believe. How were these magnificent feats of engineering possible with just horses, carts, and basic hand tools? Take a look at the grand buildings of St. Petersburg. Think about the intricate designs in cities like Tashkent. We see similar patterns in extravagant Indian palaces, the grandest Ottoman structures, and even ancient fortresses across China and Mongolia. What do they all have in common? They share an architectural DNA that seems far too advanced for their time. These buildings feature giant stone arches, perfect mathematical symmetry, and decorations so ornate and detailed it's hard to imagine them being carved by hand. They dwarf the people standing next to them in old photos. The sheer scale is breathtaking. But it's not just about size. The infrastructure itself hints at a deeper knowledge. The layout suggests a sophisticated understanding of geometry, acoustics, and even energy. Some researchers have pointed to features that look eerily like components of a massive electrical grid, long before Tesla and Edison. This has led to a fascinating and controversial theory. Some researchers argue that these incredible buildings were actually constructed by the colonial Europeans or the civilizations credited with them. They believe the technology required was simply too advanced for the tools available during those periods. The conventional story is that settlers and pioneers built these grand halls, cathedrals, and government buildings. But is it plausible that people struggling to survive in harsh new environments had the time, resources, and expertise to erect such masterpieces? The alternative theory is that these structures were already there. They were found, not built. Ancient, abandoned relics of a lost, highly advanced global civilization. The newcomers simply moved in, repurposed them, and wrote themselves into the history books as the brilliant architects. This is the core idea behind what many people now call Tartarian architecture. Now, the term Tartarian Empire itself is a rabbit hole. It refers to a supposed global empire that existed in our recent past, which has since been deliberately erased from our history books. The evidence, proponents say, is in the architecture. It's in the old maps that show a vast territory called Tartaria stretching across Asia. It's in the countless old photographs showing these magnificent, seemingly out-of-place buildings all over the world, from San Francisco to Shanghai. Let's examine the evidence more closely. Look at the World S fairs of the late 19th and early 20th centuries in cities like Chicago, St. Louis, and Buffalo. We are told that these vast, palace-like structures were made of plaster and staff. Temporary constructions meant to last only for the duration of the fair and then be torn down. But does that make sense? Why invest such incredible effort, design, and resources into something temporary? Photos from the construction phases often look more like excavation sites than building sites. Some theorists propose that these fairs were actually a way to showcase the newly discovered cities of this forgotten civilization before they were demolished to make way for our modern, less inspiring buildings. It was a final look at a glorious past before it was wiped clean. Think about the sheer number of star forts scattered across the globe. These are forts designed in a very specific star shape. The official explanation is that this design was optimal for cannon defense, but they are found everywhere, on every continent, all sharing this same incredibly complex geometric pattern. Could they be remnants of a global power grid, energy centers for this ancient civilization, rather than just military forts? Their intricate designs seem better suited for harnessing energy than for deflecting cannonballs. Let's also consider the common motifs: the domes, the spires, the arches, the columns. We see them repeated in state capitals, in banks, in post offices, in city halls across America and around the world. We're told this is just a popular architectural style, like neoclassical, but the consistency and global scale suggests something more. It suggests a unified culture, a single blueprint being used by a civilization that spanned the entire planet. The buildings were often made of stone and brick, materials built to last for millennia, not just a few centuries. So why would this history be hidden? The theory goes that after some sort of cataclysm, perhaps a great flood, or an energy-weaponed old world was destroyed. The survivors were few, and a new group rose to power. To control the new world, they needed to control the past. They created a new timeline, a new history, and claimed the achievements of the past civilization as their own. The remaining magnificent buildings were either repurposed or destroyed, and the story of the Tartarian Empire was scrubbed from the records. The people you see in those old, muddy photos standing in front of these palaces weren't the builders. They were the inheritors, looking just as bewildered as we are. Another strange anomaly is the concept of orphan trains. Between the mid-1850s and the late 1920s, hundreds of thousands of children were transported from crowded East Coast cities to the Midwest. But survivors of the cataclysm that wiped out the previous civilization, they were gathered, reprogrammed with a new history, and redistributed to populate the new world. with no memory of their true origins. It's a dark thought, but it connects some strange historical dots. Now, of course, this is a theory that challenges everything we know about our history. Mainstream historians dismiss it entirely, citing a lack of concrete, academic proof. They explain the architectural similarities as the result of cultural exchange and the popularity of certain styles. They argue that the engineering, while impressive, was achievable with the known technology of the time, just requiring massive amounts of manual labor. But the questions remain, can we really believe that all of these incredible structures, from the Singa building in New York to the palaces of India, were all built with steam shovels and horse-drawn wagons? Why do so many old buildings have floors buried several feet below the current ground level? A phenomenon often explained away as simple settling or rising street levels. This mud flood evidence is a cornerstone for many, who believe it points to a massive, global cataclysmic event. Ultimately, we're not here to tell you what to believe. We're here to present the questions and the evidence that suggests our history might be far more complex and mysterious than we retold. It's a reminder that we should always question the narrative we're given, to look at the evidence with our own eyes. The truth might be stranger than any fiction we could imagine. What if history is missing an entire civilization, long before our modern world was built, peaceful and mysteriously erased from textbooks? We don't know its true name, but many call it Tartaria. Evidence of this lost world lies hidden in old maps, impossible buildings, strange technologies, and mysterious global resets. We dive deep into the forgotten story of a civilization many believe was wiped out after a cataclysmic event known as the Mud Flood. Settle in, breathe slowly, and let the secrets unfold. The story of Tartaria begins not in dusty archives, but on the fringes of historical research, where curious minds started noticing inconsistencies in our accepted past. Mainstream history tells us a story of gradual progress, from scattered tribes to sprawling empires. But what if that story has gaps, big ones? The Tartarian theory suggests that a vast, technologically advanced civilization, often called the Tartarian Empire, spanned the globe, leaving behind architectural wonders that we still marvel at today. Think of the grand, ornate buildings you see in old city centers, worldwide, the ones with towering columns and domes that seem to defy the engineering capabilities of their supposed era. Proponents of the theory argue that these aren't just isolated marvels, but remnants of a single, unified global culture. Let's start with the maps. If you look at pre-19th century world maps, you'll find a massive territory stretching across Siberia and Central Asia labeled Tartary, or Grantadi. Official history books often dismiss this as a vague term for a region inhabited by nomadic tribes. But some of these maps depict a sophisticated empire with cities, borders, and even its own flag. Why would cartographers from that time, like Ortelius or Mercator, dedicate so much detail to a non-existent kingdom? They show Tartary as a real, established entity, often larger than any other country on the map. Then, almost overnight, in maps from the mid-1800s onward, the name Tartare vanishes completely, replaced by Russia, China, and other modern borders. It's as if a world power was wiped off the map, and then wiped from memory. Now, let's talk about the architecture. From San Francisco to St. Petersburg, from Melbourne to Mumbai, you can find buildings with a strikingly similar style. We call it neoclassical, Beaux-Arts, or Victorian. But look closer. They often feature impossibly large doors, windows high above the ground, and floors that seem to start well below street level. This brings us to the core of the mystery, the mud flood. The theory posits that a cataclysmic event, possibly a worldwide deluge of mud and soil, buried the ground floors of this ancient civilization. What we call the first floor or basement today might have actually been the original street level. All over the world, you can find photos of old buildings being excavated, revealing ornate windows and doorways deep underground. Why would anyone build such elaborate features only to immediately bury them? Was our modern world literally built on top of the ruins of a much older, more advanced one? Consider the star forts, or bastion forts. These intricate, star-shaped fortifications are found all over the globe, from Europe to the Americas and even Japan. The official explanation is that they were designed for Canaan warfare, but their geometric perfection, often aligned with astronomical precision, and their sheer number raise questions. Could they have been more than just forts? Some theories suggest they were energy hubs, part of a global grid that harnessed the natural frequencies of the Earth. This ties into the idea that Tartaria possessed advanced technology, perhaps centered around free energy. Think of the strange spires, antennas, and metal orbs that adorned many old buildings. We're told they're just lightning rods or decorative elements. But what if they were part of a wireless energy network, providing clean, free power to entire cities? Technology that was later suppressed and replaced by the profitable systems we use today. It's a somber thought, but it connects the architectural evidence with a human story, suggesting a massive depopulation event or reset that paved the way for our current timeline. The World Fairs of the late 19th and early 20th centuries also play a crucial role in this narrative. These grand expositions showcased magnificent temporary palaces, lit by thousands of electric lights at a time when electricity was supposedly a new and rare commodity. We're told these colossal structures, like the White City of the 1893 Chicago World's Fair, were built from plaster and wood, only to be torn down after a few months. Does that make sense? To construct such architectural masterpieces on such a grand scale, only to immediately destroy them. The Tartarian theory suggests an alternative, that these fairs weren't about building something new, but about showcasing the rediscovered, cleaned-up remnants of the old world. They were a way to introduce the inherited technology and architecture to the new population, before demolishing most of it to make way for the modern, less magnificent world we know. It was, perhaps, the final act of erasing the old empire and rewriting history. So, what happened? The mudflood theory is the leading explanation on natural or man-made catastrophe that buried cities and reset civilization. Whether it was a comet impact, a polar shift causing massive tsunamis, or something else entirely, the result was the same. The world of Tartaria was covered in a thick layer of sediment. The survivors, few and scattered, lost their knowledge and history. A new power structure then emerged, rewriting the past to fit its own narrative, claiming Tartarian technology as its own invention, and explaining away the buried buildings as simple basements. Of course, this all sounds like something straight out of a fantasy novel. Mainstream historians and archaeologists dismiss the Tartarian theory as a conspiracy with no credible evidence. They argue that old maps were imprecise. Similar architectural styles are the result of cultural exchange, and buried floors are due to cities naturally rising over centuries. They have explanations for every point, but for a growing number of people, those explanations don't quite add up. The sheer scale of the coincidences, the global nature of the evidence, and the questions that remain unanswered continue to fuel this fascinating alternative view of our past. Ultimately, the story of Tartaria is a call to look at the world around you with fresh eyes. It encourages you to question the official narrative and to do your own research. Next time you walk through an old city, look at the buildings. Notice the grand scale, the buried windows, the strange antennas. Ask yourself, were these structures really built with the simple tools and technologies we retold they had? Or are we walking among the ghosts of a forgotten empire? A magnificent civilization buried not just by mud, but by the pages of history itself. The truth, whatever it may be, is out there, waiting to be rediscovered. They're what some people call Tartarian architecture, and they pose a fascinating question. Were our ancestors more advanced than we give them credit for? Take a walk through cities like St. Petersburg, Prague, or even old photos of Chicago and San Francisco before the great fires and earthquakes. Officially, we're told these are just different architectural revivals: neoclassical, Beaux-Arts, Gothic revival. But why did they all look so alike, even when they reached thousands of kilometers and supposedly centuries apart? Who was the original architect? Let's dive into the details. Look at the tops of these buildings. You'll often find intricate metalwork, spires, and globes. Mainstream history calls them decorative lightning rods or simple finials. They bear a striking resemblance to modern energy collectors or It's almost as if these buildings weren't just places to live or govern, but giant, functioning machines. Consider the sheer scale and precision. We're talking about perfect symmetry. Massive stone blocks lifted hundreds of feet into the air, and intricate carvings that would challenge even our modern laser-cutting tools. The official narratives often feel like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. The theory that connects all of this is as fascinating as it is controversial. The idea of atmospheric electricity harvesting. In the 18th and 19th centuries, scientists like Benjamin Franklin were just beginning to understand electricity. Or were they? Proponents of this theory suggest that an earlier, forgotten civilization had mastered the art of harnessing free energy from the ether. According to this theory, Tartaria was a vast empire that spanned across Asia and parts of Europe and the Americas, possessing advanced technology that was later suppressed and erased from our history books. This alleged reset is a key part of the puzzle. The theory goes that a series of cataclysms in the 18th and 19th centuries, perhaps mud floods or other disasters, wiped out this civilization and buried many of its cities. The survivors, or a new group that took over, then rewrote history. They repurposed the remaining buildings, claiming them as their own creations. This could explain the strange mud flood phenomenon, where we find buildings with windows and doors buried many feet below the current ground level. The official explanation is that cities just sink over time, but could it be evidence of a massive, sudden burial event? So, what are we left with? We have a global architectural style that seems technologically impossible for its supposed era. We have buildings that look like massive energy machines. We have evidence of a potential cataclysm and a historical narrative that seems to have some serious holes in it. Are these just coincidences? Is it just a collection of different architectural styles that happen to look similar? Or are we looking at the silent, stone remnants of a forgotten chapter of human history? A history where our ancestors weren't primitive, but were masters of technology we are only just beginning to rediscover. The next time you walk through an old city, look up. Look at the spires, the domes, the impossible symmetry. Don't just see a building. See a potential machine. Ask yourself, who really built this, and for what purpose? The answers might be hidden in plain sight, challenging everything we thought we knew about our past. The architecture is the evidence, and it's not going anywhere. It's up to us to learn its language. How can an empire appear on maps for centuries, and then suddenly vanish? It sounds like the plot of a fantasy novel, but what if I told you this might be a real piece of hidden history? We re-diving into one of the most baffling cartographic mysteries of all time. If you've ever looked at antique maps from the 15th through the 19th centuries, you might have noticed a vast, sprawling territory labeled Tartary or Grand Tartary. We're talking about hundreds of European maps, not just one or two. These weren't crude sketches. They were detailed works from the most respected cartographers of their time. They depicted Tartaria as a massive region, often covering all of Siberia, Mongolia, Central Asia, and sometimes stretching all the way up to the Arctic Ocean and even into parts of North America. It's shown as a distinct political entity, separate from China, Russia, or the Persian empires. Old atlases and encyclopedias don't just show it on a map, they describe it. The 1771 edition of the Encyclopedia Britannica, for example, refers to Tartary as a vast country in the northern parts of Asia, noting its immense size. It talks about its various regions like Chinese Tartary, independent Tartary, and Russian Tartary. It describes the people, the Tartars, and their way of life. Some accounts from Western explorers who ventured into these lands paint a picture of a sophisticated and powerful northern kingdom. They wrote about encountering people with unknown writing systems and described cities with impressive architecture and advanced technology that seemed out of place for the era. Think about that for a second. An empire so large that it dwarfs nearly every other nation on Earth, documented by the world's leading geographers for over 400 years. It's described as an independent, powerful force in the world. And then, sometime after the late 1800s, it just disappears. It's completely wiped off the map. You won't find the Tartarian Empire in any of your modern history textbooks. It's not taught in schools. It's as if it never existed. This is where the story gets really strange. The conventional explanation is that Tartary was never a single, unified empire. Mainstream historians argue it was simply a vague, catch-all term that Western Europeans used for the vast, poorly understood lands of Inner Asia, inhabited by various Turkic and Mongol peoples, who they collectively and often inaccurately called Tartars. This name was a holdover from the Mongol Empire of Genghis Khan, whose warriors were fearsome and often referred to in Europe with the Latin word for hell, Tartarus. So, according to this view, as European knowledge of geography improved, the genetic label Tartari was replaced with more accurate names for the regions and peoples who actually lived there, like Siberia, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, and so on. The land didn't vanish. The name just became obsolete. But for a growing number of people, this explanation just doesn't add up. Why would cartographers so consistently draw borders for a non-existent empire? Why would they label its capital and major cities? The descriptions of Tartary in old texts often go far beyond a simple geographical label. They talk about its government, its customs, and its power. Could a simple misunderstanding last for over 4 centuries among the most educated people in Europe? Proponents of the Tartarian Empire theory suggest something far more deliberate took place. They believe Tartary was a real, technologically advanced, global civilization that was intentionally erased from history. The theory goes that this empire was the heir to a great, ancient global culture, possessing knowledge of things like atmospheric energy, advanced architecture, and harmonious living that we've since lost. The magnificent star forts found all over the world, the grand, ornate buildings of the 18th and 19th centuries often attributed to our more recent ancestors, the theory posits. These were actually the remnants of the Tartarian civilization. But why would it be erased? The popular narrative among believers is that a massive cataclysm, often referred to as a mud flood, occurred in the 19th century. This event supposedly buried the lower levels of Tartarian cities around the world, which is why you can sometimes see buildings with windows and doors leading to nowhere, several feet below the current ground level. Following this cataclysm, the narrative continues. A new group of global powers rose up, rewrote history, and claimed Tartarian technology and architecture as their own. They fabricated our current historical timeline to hide the existence of this previous global empire. Every war, every revolution, every fire that destroyed a city in the 19th century is re-examined under this lens, as a potential part of this massive cover-up, a systematic destruction of Tartarian people, culture, and records. The disappearance of Tartaria from the maps wasn't an update. It was a deliberate act of historical erasure on a scale that's almost impossible to comprehend. Now, it's crucial to state that this is a highly controversial theory. There is no academic, peer-reviewed evidence to support the existence of a single, unified Tartarian empire as described in these theories. Archaeologists and historians point to the clear and distinct cultural and political histories of the various peoples of Central and Northern Asia. They can trace the evolution of architectural styles and can explain phenomena like buried building levels through natural soil accumulation, city redevelopment, and changes in street levels over time. To them, the Tartarian Empire is a classic conspiracy theory, born from misinterpreting old maps and a desire to find a grand, hidden narrative in the complexities of history. But whether you believe Tartary was a real, forgotten empire, or just a cartographic curiosity, the story itself forces us to ask some fascinating questions. How much of what we accept as historical fact is truly accurate? How are historical narratives shaped, and by whom? Old maps are like time capsules, offering a glimpse into how people of the past saw their world. The maps of Tartaria show a world that looks very different from our own. They invite us to question the official story, to dig deeper, and to wonder what other secrets might be hiding in plain sight, just waiting to be rediscovered in an old atlas or a forgotten book. The maps exist. The descriptions were written. The mystery remains. Have you ever walked down the street and noticed something a little off? Like a building window that's half buried in the sidewalk? Or a grand-looking door that opens directly into a wall of dirt? You might have just brushed it off. But what if I told you these aren't just architectural quirks? What if they're clues to a forgotten global catastrophe? This is the rabbit hole of the mudflood theory, and it's about to change the way you see the world around you. So, what are we talking about? All over the globe, from bustling metropolises to remote villages, you find these strange features. Windows peeking out from just above ground level, basements that look suspiciously like they were once first floors, grand archways that dive straight into the earth, The official explanation is usually something like the street level was raised over time, or it's just a sunken basement. But the sheer scale and similarity of these features across continents have led some to question the mainstream narrative. Could there be a more dramatic explanation? Into the mud flood theory. Proponents of this idea suggest that at some point in the not-so-dissonant past, maybe in the 19th or even early 20th century, a cataclysmic event swept the globe. This wasn't just a regular flood. Imagine a massive, worldwide tsunami, not of water, but of mud, silt, and debris. This colossal wave of earth would have buried entire cities, sometimes up to 1 or 2 stories high. The theory goes that the survivors, faced with an unimaginable cleanup job, did the most practical thing they could. Instead of digging out entire cities, they simply started fresh on top of the new ground level. The old ground floors became new basements. The once grand entrances were sealed up or converted. They cleared the main streets, piled the mud to the side, and just kept building upwards. This would explain why we see so many buildings with these sunken features. They aren't sunken at all. The ground around them has been raised. Think about it. Why would architects in the 1800s design beautiful, ornate windows and doors, only to immediately bury them? It doesn't make sense from a design or engineering perspective. The mud flood theory offers a single, unifying explanation for this global phenomenon. We see this evidence everywhere. In Moscow, the Polytechnic Museum has a lower level that was clearly once the ground floor. In Istanbul, you can find ancient structures submerged beneath the modern city. Paris, Mexico City, San Francisco, Melbourne, the list goes on and on. You can find photos and accounts from the 1800s, America showing what looks like a massive cleanup operation, with streets caked in thick layers of mud. Let's take a look at some specific examples. In many cities in the United States, you can go on underground tours that take you through the original ground-level storefronts of the 19th century. In Seattle, the official story is that the city was rebuilt 1 story higher after the Great Fire of 1889 to solve sewage problems. But what if the fire was just part of the story? What if the rebuilding was actually a recovery from a massive mud inundation that happened around the same time? The evidence is compelling. You can see old sidewalks and storefronts, perfectly preserved, sitting a full story below the current streets. This isn't just a big city phenomenon either. Researchers have found similar buried structures in small towns and even remote villages in places like the Himalayas. How could a local flood or street-raising project explain buried buildings in such diverse and distant locations? A global event seems like a more plausible, though admittedly mind-blowing, explanation. The theory also points to the phenomenon of liquefaction. This is what happens during a powerful earthquake, when soil saturated with water temporarily acts like a liquid. Buildings can sink straight down into the ground. Could a global seismic event have triggered widespread liquefaction, causing structures to sink before being covered by the subsequent mud flows? This is where it gets even stranger. The mud flood theory is often connected to another grand conspiracy: the lost empire of Tartaria. We'll do a full video on Tartaria soon, but in short, it's a proposed civilization that was technologically advanced, with stunning architecture, and spanned a huge part of the globe. Proponents believe that this empire was deliberately erased from our history books. And what event could be powerful enough to wipe out a global empire and bury its cities? You guessed it, the mud flood. Could it be that the magnificent old world buildings we admire today, ones with the giant doors, soaring ceilings, and incredible masonry, weren't built by our recent ancestors, but are actually the last surviving remnants of this lost Tartarian empire? The theory suggests that the mud flood was the event that brought Tartaria to its knees, and the pioneers and settlers of the 19th century were actually the survivors repopulating and rebuilding on the ruins of a far more advanced past. They inherited the technology and the buildings, but the memory of who originally built them was lost or intentionally scrubbed. This would explain why we see photos from the 1800s of supposedly new cities like San Francisco or Chicago looking strangely empty, yet filled with massive, ornate buildings that seem out of place for a brand new settlement. Were these cities truly built from scratch in a few short years? Or were they found, dug out, and Of course, mainstream historians and archaeologists dismiss the mud flood theory as pseudoscience. They argue that there is no geological evidence for such a recent global cataclysm, and that the buried floors can all be explained by local factors like soil subsidence, intentional landfilling, and the gradual raising of street levels over centuries as infrastructure was updated. They say it's a case of people seeing a pattern where there isn't one, connecting unrelated phenomena to fit a preconceived narrative. But the questions remain. Why the incredible similarity in architecture and burial across the entire world? Why do so many old photographs seem to show a world digging itself out of a thick layer of mud? Why do the official explanations sometimes feel a little too neat, a little too simple to account for the sheer scale of the evidence? Whether the mud flood was a real historical event or a fascinating modern myth, it forces us to look at our surroundings with new eyes. It encourages us to question the history we've been taught and to look for clues hidden in plain sight. The next time you're walking downtown, look down. Look at the base of the old buildings. You might see a window to a lost world, a world buried right under your feet. Did an ancient civilization harness clean, wireless energy? And was this technology deliberately hidden from us? We're rediving deep into one of the most fascinating and controversial theories out there, the lost technology of a forgotten empire. All around the world, we find these incredible structures known as star forts. They're on every continent, built with a geometric precision that is baffling. Mainstream history tells us they were defensive fortifications. But what if they served a much grander purpose? What if these weren't just forts, but massive energy harvesting plants? Look at the evidence scattered across the globe. Giant towers that bear an uncanny resemblance to Nikola Tesla's own designs for wireless energy transmission. We see ornate buildings, from cathedrals to government centers, often topped with copper domes, spires, and antennas. These aren't just decorative elements. Theorists propose they were receivers and transmitters, designed to pull energy directly from the atmosphere. Think about it. Our planet is a giant electromagnetic generator. The Earth's magnetic field, the ionosphere. Lightning strikes it's a sea of energy. Could our ancestors have known how to tap into this, creating a global wireless power grid? The theory suggests that this civilization, sometimes referred to as the Tartarian Empire, had an advanced understanding of physics that we are only just beginning to rediscover. They supposedly knew how to use acoustics and resonance to manipulate energy. Imagine buildings constructed not just for shelter, but as finely tuned resonant chambers, amplifying natural frequencies to generate power. They may have used sacred geometry and specific materials, like quartz and copper, to channel this energy. The geometric patterns found in these ancient structures, from star forts to cathedrals, might be the blueprints for this forgotten technology. They align with ley lines, the Earth's natural energy grid, far too often for it to be a mere coincidence. Proponents of this theory claim that these ancient people used a variety of methods to generate this free, clean energy. One major source was atmospheric electricity. By building tall, conductive structures with metallic domes and spires, they could literally pull electricity out of the air, much like a lightning rod, but in a controlled and continuous way. This energy could then be stored or distributed wirelessly to power their cities. Think of a world without power lines, without pollution from burning fossil fuels. A world where energy is abundant and free for everyone. It sounds like science fiction, but the architectural clues are everywhere. Another fascinating concept is the use of sound and vibration. Have you ever noticed the incredible acoustics inside old cathedrals? The way sound reverberates and seems to fill the space with energy. Some researchers believe this was intentional. By using giant pipe organs or other sonic devices, they could create powerful vibrations that resonated with the building's structure, generating piezoelectric energy from the quartz-rich stone. This is the same principle that makes a quartz watch work, but on a massive architectural scale. This cymatics or sound-based technology could have been a key component of their power generation. Then there's the element of water. Many of these ancient sites are built near or over water sources. Canals and aqueducts were not just for transport or irrigation. They could have been part of a sophisticated system of water pressure energy. By channeling water through intricate underground networks, they could have used its force to drive turbines or other devices, generating power silently and efficiently, hidden beneath their cities. The elaborate fountains found in the courtyards of old palaces and city squares might not have been just for beauty. but were the visible parts of a much larger hydro-powered energy system. Now, it's important to state that none of this has been confirmed by mainstream science or archaeology. These are theories pieced together by independent researchers who see a pattern that official history seems to ignore. The official narrative is that these are just castles, churches, and administrative buildings, built with primitive tools by different cultures over many centuries. But the patterns are too consistent, the similarities too striking to be easily dismissed. From Europe to Asia, from Africa to the Americas, we find the same architectural motifs, the same geometric precision, the same potential for energy harvesting. Why would such incredible technology be forgotten? Or, more chillingly, was it deliberately suppressed? If a global system of free energy existed, it would completely upend our modern world. The entire economic system, which is largely based on the scarcity and control of energy resources, would collapse. Perhaps a cataclysmic event wiped out this civilization, burying their knowledge. Or perhaps those who sought power and control systematically destroyed the evidence, rewriting history to erase the memory of a world powered by free energy. They might have dismantled the technology, repurposed the buildings, and created a new history that told us we were primitive until the Industrial Revolution. Think about the implications. If this is true, it means our potential as a species is far greater than we've been led to believe. It means that solutions to our biggest problems like climate change and energy poverty might not lie in the future, but in rediscovering the wisdom of our past. We are told that we are at the peak of technological advancement, yet we are still burning fossil fuels and polluting our planet. Could it be that we've been going in the wrong direction? That we've lost a more elegant, more harmonious way of living? The sheer number of these stuff forts, the global prevalence of these Tesla coil towers and copper-domed buildings, and their alignment with the Earth's electromagnetic grid present a compelling puzzle. It's a mystery written in stone and metal, hidden in plain sight all around us. While we don't have all the answers, the questions themselves are powerful. We need to start looking at our own history with fresh eyes and an open mind. What else have we been told that isn't true? What other secrets are waiting to be rediscovered? The search for truth is just beginning. Thanks for watching. What do you think? Are these buildings just beautiful relics? Or are they proof of a lost, advanced civilization? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of our past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our next video. See you next time.